viste.
¿Qué quieren, brujos? Astaghfirullahaladzim.
Leave me out in the forest where I might get eaten by a bear.
Karina and Chelsea are two explorers who investigate some of the UK's most haunted sites. Their adventures often involve urban exploration, and in this instance, they set their sights on a place that even locals fear, Daring Woods, also known as the Screaming Woods. Situated near the famously haunted village of Pluckley, Daring Woods has a long and dark history. Tales of ghostly voices, mysterious lights, and unexplained disappearances have been shared for decades. Even before they officially entered the forest, unsettling sensations began to emerge. They discovered that the usual entrance gate was locked, prompting them to modify their plans. Signs clearly indicated that camping was not allowed. Despite these warnings, they decided to take the risk and planned to carry their gear further into the woods. As night fell, what had once been a spooky but manageable hike quickly turned into something more sinister.
That's just people. I heard a scream. It's just people. Should we fucking go? You've got to stick it out a bit. Mate, how are we going to go? We've got so much stuff. I don't give a fuck.
Almost immediately, they began to hear faint screams echoing through the trees. Footsteps pattered through the underbrush, always just out of sight. At one point, Karina and Chelsea stopped near an abandoned structure, where they noticed fresh footprints in the mud.
I can't. Where's the torch? Mate, my whole shoe just came off. I'm trying to find the torch so I can... Mate. My whole fucking shoe. Where's the torch? It's got embedded. Oh no, it's here. Oh, thank God for that. Do you wanna see the damage? See the damage. Look at that. Oh, you can't wear that in the tent. Oh, oh. Look, you can see right there.
Strangely, they hadn't seen anyone else. No cars were parked at the entrance, and there were no signs of other hikers nearby. Whoever had left those tracks was either still lurking in the woods or had disappeared entirely. The psychological strain intensified rapidly. Their joking and laughter ceased, replaced by hushed, serious voices. They realized that lingering longer would only increase their risk. Feeling as though something was actively stalking them, they reluctantly decided to return to the car. Only when they finally stepped onto the road did the oppressive sensation lift. Although they didn't record any full apparitions that night, no poltergeist activity or shadows flickering across their camera, they captured something even more unsettling: fear, mounting with every passing second. On April 26, 2025, Mama Nu uploaded a video to his new YouTube channel. It documents one of the most disturbing nights he's ever recorded. Renowned for his daring solo horror camping adventures, Mama often ventures into dense forests, deserted villages, and haunted sites. However, this time, he chose a location that locals avoid after sunset. What he captures on camera will astonish you. The site isn't merely known for its eerie reputation. Villagers openly admit their fear of it, sharing stories of people being lured into the graveyard by voices that mimic loved ones, only to find themselves alone among the tombstones. Others have reported seeing ghostly figures beckoning from the trees, which disappear as soon as someone approaches. Mama set up his camp at a fork in the road, with his tent positioned between the two paths and his motorcycle parked nearby. To record the events thoroughly, he installed a CCTV system, monitoring various angles of the area. The strange phenomena began subtly once darkness fell. Echoes of clicking noises resonated from the darkness, distinct from the usual creaks of cooling branches. Soon, rustling sounds shifted between the trees encircling his camp. Mama stayed composed, shining his flashlight into the woods and speaking aloud to declare his presence, a strategy he frequently employs to prevent provoking any unseen forces observing him. However, the first significant escalation occurred suddenly and without warning.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Astagfirullah, 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 Astagfirullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Suddenly, the horn of his motorcycle blared into the darkness. The bike was securely locked, with no one nearby. There was no wind strong enough to cause such noise. As he observed, an even more unsettling event occurred. The bike's handlebar shifted as if being tugged by an invisible force. Later, upon reviewing the footage, man uncovered something truly chilling. One of the cameras captured a ghostly figure moving. The entity was tall, semi-transparent, and appeared to glide rather than walk. It paused briefly before vanishing into the darkness. Its face was indistinct, just a shifting mass shaped like a person, lingering long enough to leave no doubt in my mom's mind that it was real. Meanwhile, the environmental changes grew more evident. The temperature around Mama's tent plummeted sharply. The disturbances intensified when Mama heard slow, heavy footsteps approaching from the cemetery road. He called out several times, introducing himself and challenging anyone or anything present to reveal themselves, but there was no response, only the sound of footsteps weaving through the trees. Despite his fear, Mama remained through the night. Even with his experience, these events on the haunted road visibly unsettled him. By early morning, the activity subsided, but the sense of unease persisted. The true horror of that night was the constant, intentional manipulation of his surroundings, like the bike honking on its own, shifting positions, and the ghostly figure appearing on camera. What are your thoughts on this encounter? Share your opinions in the comments. The creators of this YouTube channel, Sarai, Jose, and their team, are no strangers to exploring the unknown. Their content focuses on investigating some of the most feared and forbidden locations throughout Latin America. On this particular night, they entered a secluded forest clearing believed to be the location of dark rituals. Almost instantly, eerie sounds pierced the night silence. Beginning with a gentle chant that gradually grew louder, originating from deeper within the forest. It didn't resemble any language they knew. Instead, it was a dialect filled with unfamiliar words they couldn't completely comprehend. Suddenly, the sound of hooves echoed through the trees, accompanied by the unmistakable rhythmic clatter of a horse approaching nearby.
Viene alguien con caballo.
¡Hey!
Mira, sí, como que se ve una sombra ya. Un caballo, sí.
A ver. ¡Hey, señor!
Señor, buenas noches. Eso es el que cuida las tierras.
Agua, Saray.
Que iba hacia allá.
¿Verdad que sí, Saray?
Sí, iba hacia allá. Sí se escuchó, pero como que iba para allá, pues.
El charro negro, ese anda en caballo, hija.
¿Tú crees?
Sí.
Pero ¿y ese ruido parece indígena?
Hoy.
Parece como de una tribu indígena.
Sí, hija.
Hola.
Hola, buenas noches. ¿Quién está aquí? ¿Está aquí algún chamán en este lugar?
In local lore, hearing a horse at night without seeing it is often associated with El Shaddai Negro, a ghostly horseman believed to guard sacred or cursed sites. The team searched the woods with their flashlights, but initially saw nothing. As their chanting grew louder, they called out into the darkness, asking if anyone was present. At first, there was no reply. Then, movement. Shadows flickering between the trees. These were no animals. The figures moved deliberately and swiftly. Jose whispered that they might be confronting witches, warlocks, or other supernatural protectors of a sacred area. That's when the balls of fire suddenly appeared.
Ahí, amigos, miren, por ahí se ven las bolas de fuego, ahí. Mira, ya cayeron.
Dos bolas de fuego, güey.
Eran dos bolas de fuego, güey, cayeron. Dios mío.
Compa, vienen por nosotros, compa.
Luminous orbs of light, small and radiant, descended from the sky into the forest clearing. The team glimpsed them weaving between the trees, landing like sparks on the grass. Locals refer to these as bolas de fuego. I'm unsure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but they are considered ominous omens, often associated with witchcraft and spiritual conflicts. Witnessing even a single one is rare. Seeing multiple simultaneously is regarded as a dire warning. Realizing they had entered an unfamiliar and potentially dangerous realm, they called out politely, clarifying they were explorers and meant no harm. However, the surrounding atmosphere remained tense. If anything, the unease intensified, especially when Sarai sensed something chilling nearby.
Eres un guardián, ¿verdad? ¿Qué es lo que quieres, brujo? ¿Qué quieren?
Sarai, espérate,
Mira, el de gris ya salió.
Ahí viene.
Ahí viene el de gris.
Mira. Mira.
Ahí viene.
Son tres, vean amigos. Son tres brujos nos están esperando allá.
Pero no quieren que lleguemos hacia el lado.
¿Qué quieren, brujos?
¡Déjenos pasar!
A ver, vamos acercándonos.
Mira, como que...
No vamos a interrumpir nada de lo que ustedes están haciendo, solamente queremos
Como
poder
quien
pasar.
manda sobre ellos es el de gris, amigos.
The individuals they suspected were nearby weren't ordinary people. They were engaged in rituals. The team had inadvertently walked right into the heart of it. They attempted to apologize, making it clear they meant no harm, but the ritual leaders showed no interest in their apologies. They emphasized that the area was sacred ground and that the explorers were unwelcome. One of the most terrifying moments occurred when a group of figures tried to block their escape. Jose and Sarai noticed several people dressed in dark clothing standing between them and the forest exit. Realizing they needed to leave immediately or risk being trapped, the explorers quickly regrouped and began to retreat, keeping their flashlights trained on the shifting shadows. Sarai urged everyone to remain calm, quietly reciting prayers, feeling that faith was their only safeguard. As they neared the edge of the clearing, a final sight chilled them to the core. 5 figures stood motionless, watching their departure, signaling that they had crossed a boundary and wouldn't be permitted to do so again. Once safely back at their vehicles, the team concluded the night, shaken but unharmed. What are your thoughts on this encounter? Let me know. Sydney, a solo traveler and content creator, has chronicled her adventures across numerous campsites and national parks throughout the United States. She shares both the serene and unpredictable aspects of life on the road. Recognized for her calm and relatable demeanor, Sydney often embraces the solitude that accompanies solo journeys. However, on this particular night in the Tennessee wilderness, that solitude took a darker, more unsettling turn. Returning to one of her very first solo camping sites, Sydney aimed for a nostalgic trip. After stocking up on supplies for the week, she drove deep into the forest, navigating a narrow, winding road that took her miles away from any signs of civilization. The campsite she selected was simple and secluded, with only 2 official spots available, and upon arrival, she found it completely deserted.
There's nobody here. I'm gonna get out and take a gander and make sure everything's like safe, and I might drive down there, but I might take the top spot too. I don't know yet. That's where my friend Grace camped when I was camping down here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna come down to this spot. I'm so glad.
She established her campsite near her vehicle. She was accustomed to hearing occasional distant traffic or the movements of other campers nearby. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the faint splash of fish jumping in the nearby water. She prepared a simple meal of rice and chicken, but as she cooked, a sharp, unfamiliar noise from deeper within the trees interrupted the silence.
Is that? Anyways, dinner is served. I really hope that wasn't like a mountain lion or something. But I'm not gonna let it scare me to stay in my car. I packed all my stuff up so that if I do need to like just close this, I only have this to move, but you know what I'm thinking? What if it was Bigfoot and that was like a deer that he was eating and it was like making noises because the deer is scared? That was so weird. I heard it move too. It like moved from like there to over there. I think my saving grace is that I know there are other campers back here, so I feel better about that. I'm not completely alone out here.
It wasn't an ordinary animal sound. It was sharper and heavier. The noise repeated, louder and closer this time. Trying to stay composed, she speculated it might have been a deer or perhaps another camper she hadn't noticed earlier. Still, the sound didn't feel natural. It wasn't the quick movement of a small animal. Though uneasy, Sydney finished her dinner and carried on with her routine. She even joked nervously that maybe it was Bigfoot attracted by the smell of food. But deep down, she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was amiss. Her anxiety grew because, despite the presence of supposedly other campers deeper in the woods, she neither saw any lights nor heard human voices. Recognizing that caution was her best safeguard, Sydney decided to act. She swiftly packed up most of her belongings, leaving only the essentials within reach. She prepared her car for a quick escape if needed, arranging everything so she could lock the doors and drive away instantly. Although she managed to get through the night without any direct encounter, Sydney was left with more questions than answers. For experienced campers like her, it's a well-known fact. Sometimes, the most dangerous threats in the woods aren't visible. They're hidden just out of sight, close enough to hear, but never revealing themselves. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this encounter. On April 26th, 2025, the Alley Camp channel uploaded a video documenting one of his most terrifying solo camping adventures yet, as he explored a place locals referred to as a forbidden forest, deep within Indonesia. His journey started around 10:24 p.m., and from the very beginning, an unsettling detail was apparent, and there was no phone signal, leaving him completely isolated with no way to call for help if needed. Despite this, he lit his flashlight and proceeded along a narrow, winding trail into the woods. The locals had warned him about this area, believing it to be cursed and protected by ancient spirits, with its land sealed off spiritually for generations under ancestral law. Legend held that the fields and forests here were guarded by entities that shielded the earth's resources. Almost immediately, Allie sensed how unnaturally heavy the atmosphere felt.
Dari tadi itu seperti ada yang mengikuti saya.
The trail was steep and challenging. Before he could even find a spot to set up his tent, he started to feel cold chills creeping across his skin. Unusual odors filled the air, fluctuating between the sweet fragrance of flowers and a sharper scent, like burnt roots or roasted tubers such as sweet potatoes. In Southeast Asian folklore, these smells are often associated with the presence of powerful spirits. As he pressed on up the trail, Ali noticed a large fallen tree blocking the way, indicating that very few people ventured this route anymore. Nearby, an expansive bamboo grove rustled and swayed in the breeze, intensifying the ominous mood of the already unsettling night. Then, the encounter happened once more.
Dan baunya itu semakin kuat, teman-teman. Semakin kuat baunya. Astagfirullahaladzim. Apa itu, teman-teman? Astagfirullahaladzim. Astagfirullahaladzim. Coba saya zoom ya. Astagfirullahaladzim. La ilaha illallah. Astagfirullahaladzim. Astagfirullahaladzim. Dulu, teman-teman. Nggak tahu barusan. Jelas banget. Padahal barusan berada di depan saya, teman-teman. Astagfirullahaladzim.
He directed his flashlight toward the thick underbrush, and among the trees he caught sight of something. A figure dressed in white, dimly lit by the beam, stood motionless at the forest's edge. Ali immediately recognized it from his traditional attire, in long dark hair obscuring its face. Kuntilanak, one of the most feared spirits in Indonesian mythology, known as the vengeful ghost of a woman who died in childbirth. The Kuntilanak is said to haunt remote areas, luring the living with her cries, and sometimes worse. Determined not to camp too close to where he had seen the apparition, Ali moved further up the trail, desperately searching for a safer clearing. Yet the feeling of being watched persisted. Strange noises echoed behind him, rustling leaves, shifting branches, and a strong, sweet scent hung in the air like a warning. Finally, he found a small patch of flat ground suitable for setting up his tent. Even as he worked, he kept his flashlight sweeping the surrounding forest, half expecting the Kuntilanak to reappear. Several times during the setup, distant whispers drifted on the breeze, soft, feminine, and utterly unnatural. Ali knew from folklore that encountering a Kuntilanak once was dangerous. Seeing her twice in the same night could spell disaster. He stayed alert, praying and ready to run at a moment's notice. Although nothing else materialized before dawn, the experience left him profoundly unsettled. This was no ordinary abandoned forest. It was protected land, haunted by spirits whose warnings came not through words but through sights, smells, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Uploaded on April 19th, 2024, this investigation by Gakuburu TV took a frightening turn as the team explored one of Japan's most notorious and stigmatized properties. Known for documenting haunted locations across the country, Gakuburu TV believed they were prepared for anything. However, they were unready for what they discovered inside this seemingly abandoned mansion. They had obtained permission to enter and film under one condition. They were asked to clear out a specific room, described only as strange by the real estate agents managing the property. The house carried a tragic history, including the death of a young child. Despite this knowledge, The team was not prepared for the series of events that would soon unfold. From the start, they heard unexplained water sounds despite no active plumbing, and as they moved through the house, they heard what unmistakably sounded like a child's cry.
待って。水の音しない？
水の音するね。どこ？
奥の方からする。え？
ここ、水止ま
ってる。
止まってる？
と思う。
水の音だね。
だよね。
だよね。
子供の声に聞こえない？
する。
叫んでたよね、子供。
叫んでたね。いきなりシミがところどころすごいんだよね、これ。大丈夫？入ってる。
失礼します。
失礼します。
何この椅子。
いや、なんか不気味だし。
あ、ほんとだ。シミ怖っ。
しかも、
なんかこの部屋なんだって、最後。
Although the building was expected to be entirely vacant, once they arrived at the peculiar room, it quickly became evident why the owner had avoided it.
トントンってたぞ。これ？あれ？開かない？あれ？何だろう？鏡方だの？トントンって言ったよね。
言った。
こういうやつか。
それだよ。何どうした？
やば。待って、寒気がすごいんだけど。
どういうこと？
これだ。片付けてって言われたの。これ？寒気すごい。
どっち開けた方がいいかな？これ？
怖い。ちょっと待って。めっちゃ怖いんだけど、これ。
そんなに？ちょっとやだよ。
すごい寒気、やばい。今までいろんな場所もあったけど。これ怖い、マジで。やばいでしょ。
ちょっと待って。これはダメでしょ。
これ映画でしか見たことないよ、俺、マジで。これ。
大丈夫？
大丈夫じゃないと思う。無理だと思う。撤去できない。ちょっともう一回見ていい？俺。
いいです。いや、これ。
これ映していいのか？映せるのか、これ。
いやーわ、マジで
めっちゃお札とかあって、何これ。
They discovered a compact, sealed chamber behind a battered door, filled with Shinto ritual objects, protective talismans, bell strings tied with red thread, rice offerings, and salt had been meticulously placed to contain something inside. The air was thick with the nauseating smell of burnt incense and mold, making breathing nearly impossible. As the team stepped into the space, one member immediately experienced a severe physical reaction.
すげえ怖い。
これ、やばい感じだよね、壊すの。
いや、嫌だよね。
今俺、あんまり何も感じないんだけど、
うん。
でもちょっと痒くなってきてる。
かゆい？
うん。首周りが、なんか首とか体がめちゃくちゃ痒いんだけど、急に。
めっちゃ赤くなってるよ。もう一回見せて。
めっちゃ今。
なんかこれめっちゃ赤いよ。 待って待って、めっちゃ赤いよ。
なんで？嘘でしょ。
マジ。発作起きてるよ。明らかにおかしいよ。だって、こういうところも赤いもんだって。
そうでしょ。今の急に。
他は大丈夫？そこだけ？
今のとここだっけ？何？これなんかあるの？呪われた？
His skin turned crimson, with patches of rash and swelling appearing within minutes. It felt as though invisible hands were clawing at his body, leaving deep marks and scratches. Despite efforts to stay calm, the marks were undeniable, spreading swiftly across his neck and arms, even though nothing had physically touched him. Meanwhile, the noise inside the house grew more intense. The child's crying voice transformed into something far more unsettling. Animalistic howls intertwined with infant screams coming from the floors above and below. The most shocking discovery was when they realized the ritual room was more than just symbolic. It was an active containment barrier. The seals on the walls weren't merely decorative. They were designed to keep something inside. By opening the room, they may have broken the protective boundary. Their equipment began to malfunction. Cameras flickered, flashlights dimmed. The team decided it was best to leave immediately, but they sensed it was already too late. The presence was now following them. As they headed for the exit, the symptoms worsened for the team members affected. His neck and shoulders bore deep red scratches, and he complained of intense burning sensations on his skin. At one point, he described the pain as feeling like a chemical burn spreading across his body. They documented the injuries in real time, evidence that whatever had been trapped in that room was still very much active. Respectfully, the team aloud apologized and hurriedly departed. Once outside, they arranged an immediate visit to a Shinto priest for cleansing rituals, aware that they might have attracted something capable of following them home. After all that transpired, one thing was certain. This was their most disturbing encounter caught on camera.